All right. Hey, guys. A little bit of a different open today. Early this morning, we got some really unfortunate news. Former head coach of UTEP, and before that, former head coach of Houston, Dana Dimel, passed away this morning. Pete Russell, his agent, broke the news. He was before he passed, he was a bit of a senior offensive analyst at Illinois. Just a kind of a gut punch of news to get this morning. We'll get to our regular show after this, but we had to acknowledge Dimmel's passing because of it's one thing to say like, oh, he was a great coach or he was a great person or whatever, but like there's not many people in this profession and that reflected how you wanted to be treated, right? How you would hope that you would treat others and how you hope that you would interact with others. He treated media fantastic. He treated his players fantastic. His staff fantastic. Craven, senior writer, is on the other line. Craven, I know he always treated you with respect as well, but if you wanted to get a quick word on him as well.
Yeah, I was hired in September of 2021, right before the football season started. So I was, scrambling to get every head coach in the state on the call. And that was, 12 of them. That was before Sam moved up. For 11 of the 12, I had to set up a time with an SID. On the 12th, it was Dana Dimel just giving me a call. And I'll never forget that interview because I've never been interviewed during my interview before. He asked more questions about me and my family and my grandparents and the ranch and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we really just talked about life. And then at the end, I was like, oh, shoot, I have to ask football questions, And so in an industry where there's not always the best people, I mean, I think we can admit that, right? Like there's a lot of nefarious figures in this industry. Dimel was a great man, and I think sometimes we forget that these coaches are people. They're paid a lot of money to win football games, and they get hired and fired as such. But just a great guy, somebody that made an impact on me, and I hate it for his family.
Yeah, of course. We made our trip out there, and I believe as a staff in 21. And he was gracious to us. We stopped by the facility. Barrick Neely showed us around the facility, and he was just walking through with his coffee, right? It had that, I don't think I met our head coach that had that grandfather who just happens to coach football feeling, where he was just like, hey, how y'all doing, guys? And he just walked around with his coffee, and like he had like slides on or something, and just like showing us around. He's like, yeah, let me know if y'all need anything, and just like showed us around. So that was the kind of head coach he was, and for UTEP especially, who was a program that, needs exposure and needs, made, as we're seeing with Scotty Walden now, maybe needs to do some different things to get that exposure. He was like the perfect ambassador at the time to be like, yeah, doors open, like just come on in,
Dave Wilson and I drove to Phoenix because Southwest Airlines had a big thing. I guess that was 22
during the playoff.
When TCU was playing in the Fiesta Bowl. He came and met us for tacos at like 9:30 at night. Just a cool dude that is going to be missed.
Yeah, so again, different opening for our show, but we'll get to our regular show in a bit. We just wanted to start off by kind of honoring him, like I mentioned, former Houston head coach and most recently former UTEP head coach who led them back to a bowl in 2021, and the program was headed in the right direction at that point. You saw the passion of El Paso around UTEP, and he was a big part of that. So we will go on with our regular show now, and we'll start off with a word from our sponsors.
Be Well Texas helps people who are struggling with the use of alcohol or drugs. They offer high-quality, science-based addiction treatment and recovery services anywhere in Texas. Find help for you or a loved one today.
Welcome to Be Well Texas. We're glad you're here. In many cases, there is no cost for treatment if you don't have insurance. Call 888-85-BE-WELL.
This episode is also brought to you by Home Field Apparel. If you see that promo code DCTF, you get 10% off your first-time purchase at Home Field Apparel. 11 of the 13 FBS programs in Texas do have stuff on Home Field Apparel, including some FCS, Houston Christian, Lamar. If you are a fan of any of those teams and want some new apparel merch, some of the best vintage merch on the market, feel free to use our promo code DCTF for 10% off your first-time purchase. Hello and welcome to the Republic of Football. I'm your host, Ishmael Johnson, here at Dave Campbell's studios alongside Carter Yates. What's up, bud?
I'd argue it's one of the most exciting weeks of the college football calendar because we got two teams in the conference championship.
Yes. And
then also Black Monday of a bunch of coaching changes going on. I know Craven's been in the weeds on that. So a lot of stuff happening.
Also, we got three teams still in the playoffs, I believe, two teams in the playoffs, one team in a bowl game for non-FBS football. Incarnate Word, Mary Hardin Baylor, and UTPB, and I believe Navarro actually in the JUCO ranks as well. So it is a stacked championship week as far as the state's concerned. You mentioned him, senior writer Mike Craven on the other line. What's up, man? How you doing?
Doing good, guys. How are y'all?
We're doing pretty good, especially after a big weekend, like Carter mentioned, leading into this championship weekend. By the way, of course, Mallory Hartley on the other side, making sure you can hear us and see us pretty well. How are you, Mallory?
Good. Against my will. I don't want to hear you guys. I'm just kidding.
I thought you were going to
say Craven.
I thought you were going to say you were. I thought you were going to say you were mad that your Spartans.
Stop! I'm turning your mic off.
You better be
okay.
careful. She just had a Celsius for the first time before the show, so she's amped right now.
Not for the first time. I've had a Celsius
I was there when you actually had
before.
your first Celsius at basketball state.
Oh yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there will be no Michigan State Rutgers talk on this podcast. Thank you.
Fine. Anyway, we had some coaching news, like Carter did mention. We'll start off. Of course, we have the championship games to talk about, SEC Championship and ACC Championship in the back half. But we've had some coaching news, seismic, big, small, all around. And Craven, you've been on top of it. We're going to go through, of course, Sam Houston. We're going to go through Tech, Joey McGuire all of a sudden having to change both coordinators. We're going to go through the new defensive coordinator at UNT, if you haven't heard. So, yeah, there you go.
Super pumped. I needed good news.
But first, let's start off with some not so good news for our friends down in Huntsville. Casey Keeler took the job at Temple. Of course, he is a Northeast guy by trade. He cut his teeth at the in that region, of course, at Delaware, winning a national title. And, of course, before he won a national title at Sam Houston, we kind of he's kind of like, I guess, assimilated to the Texan culture. We kind of assimilated him that way and started connecting him to Texas jobs because he had done such a good job there with that program. But I'm curious, Craven, and you were aware of this as well. When the Temple job came open and when his name started to get more attached to it, I got the sense of, this is not me reporting, this is me speculating, that after you get passed over for Texas State and after you get passed over for Rice, there starts to be a closing window for if he was going to take that next step anywhere, it started to become diminishing returns as far as staying in the state.
Yeah, and he probably only has 5 or so years to coach. I mean, he's the youngest 65-year-old I've ever met,
Seriously.
So he's not approaching retirement in that way. But I think he sees the next job as his last job, and
right.
He'd like to be somewhere where he doesn't have to build it from the ground up. I think 9-3 and flirting with the Conference USA Championship. That may be the ceiling right now for Sam until they get their facilities in order, the money in order. They're pretty far behind. I mean, Carter and I talked about it on the weekend show. The matchup between Liberty and Sam Houston, probably the biggest mismatch in terms of resources of any conference matchup you could find.
Yeah.
I think going to Temple, there's going to be more money there. He's going to make more money. He's going to be able to spend more money on his staff and on the support staff and on the roster. And it gives him a chance to go win a conference championship or at least compete for one before he retires.
I think Keeler really pulled a magic act in these last 2 years in the FBS transition with going from 3-9 to 9-3 in the Conference USA, competing for a conference championship. You might ask, why is he going to Temple when Temple, their university president, had said, we have to reassess the football program in the wake of revenue sharing and things of that nature because it's a program that's long struggled. I think it says a lot about where Sam Houston is as a new FBS program. One, it's the money. So Colton Foster reported that Keeler got paid $625,000 this season. Stan Drayton, the former coach, was $1.8 million for 2/3 of the season.
Yep.
It's also the resources at Sam Houston, guys. I mean, they have a weight room that they share with 17 other sports. There's next to no NIL money. And it's very likely they're not playing in a home stadium next year with Bowers.
That's a good point, too. Yeah.
It's not an easy job to win at. And I think that's why you see Keeler going back to the Northeast and going to Temple, even though that is not a program that is in the best situation to win. I think he knows if he could do it at Sam Houston, he could do it at Temple.
Yeah. I think for me, though, I think it does come down to, Craven mentioned it with not having to build from the ground up necessarily. It's not like people haven't won at Temple. Right. I think Stan Drayton was just a off hire. But you go back, and it's been a while, don't get me wrong, but you go back to Al Golden, you go back to Matt Rule, right? There's a history of, obviously I think they were in the MAC at that point, in the Big East at that point, but there's been and to a certain extent, Jeff Collins as well. Jeff Collins was there. There's been a track record of guys being able to do it there. And I think that Casey Keeler is in a point where he's like, okay, if that's their floor, potentially, right? If I can get them back to that can be their floor. We can build off of that, maybe have 1 or 2 seasons of double digits like Matt Rule did. That's capable. That's something I'm willing to take, as opposed to, again, Sam Houston, he's going to have to continue to pull rabbits out of the hat. And again, things that he's done, and we can transition to what the pool looks like for Sam Houston now. Craven, you had a piece on textfootball.com for subscribers. Anybody wants to go read that, about the candidate pool for Sam Houston, the type of coach that they may be looking for. And it's kind of wide-ranging. You have some big swing ideas in there with some FBS or some Power 5 coordinators, but some of them, candidate-wise, maybe going back to the FCS ranks, maybe some D2 as well. What's kind of your assessment overall of that job?
I think it's always important to look at the athletic director and his history of hiring. And Bobby Williams is the guy who hired, Willie Fritz and Casey Keeler, both kind of non-FBS guys that had a lot of success, who had experience. Now, I don't see Sam Houston going for young hotshot coordinator type thing. I don't think it was going to be like a Zach Kitley type but I do think that they're going, just from hearing Bobby talk, I do think that they're going to try to find some ties to Sam Houston. As we just mentioned with Casey Keeler leaving, it's a unique situation for the Bearcats. They're going to not be playing at their home stadium next year. A lot of renovations going on. I think they used about $25K in NIL money, total this year. So you're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to know what you're stepping into. And I think that leans towards, maybe folks who have coached at the non-FBS level that are used to doing more with less. And then also maybe some off-the-wall names or names that maybe wouldn't come straight to your mouth, but they were at Sam Houston. Like I think Josh McCown is a name to watch. He's the quarterback coach in Minnesota. He played at Sam Houston. Matt Pallage, DC at Baylor, is going to be a name. And then I think, there's going to be, your usual suspects at the FCS level. Chris McCullough deserves a job. Keith Patterson's going to get a call. Those kind of guys. Clint Killow. And so I think what's nice for Sam Houston is they have a solid pool. Like I think that they're going to have a good 4 or 5 names to choose from. They're just going to have to sit down with those guys and figure out who understands the issues and how to work with them. Because that was Casey Keeler's superpower.
Yeah.
Sam Houston has more resources than anywhere he had ever been before. Right. And so I think it's like the Scott Abel thing at Rice. You hire a guy who walks into the room and goes like, holy cow, this is nice.
Yeah, right.
We can do this. And so I think that's why I kind of tend to lead towards FCS names or folks who have had stops at Ryan Carty, if they can pull him away from Delaware. So guys like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Craven, is this the one rare occasion where the ex-girlfriend to new girlfriend theory doesn't work? Like you kind of want to get a similar guy to what Casey Keeler, Willie Fritz were.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this wasn't a breakup.
Yeah. One just moved away.
Right. The love of your life.
I need someone like her.
Trying to find a new one.
Yeah. It was like, we were in situations. I have a great job. She's getting a great job. She's moving across the country. I can't follow her. I was like, I want someone like that. That was great.
I think Matt Pallage is a super interesting name, the Baylor defensive coordinator, because he's not that old, grizzled coaching veteran. But, Craven, you talk about someone with Sam Houston ties. He's from Huntsville High School. He played at Sam Houston, and I'm pretty sure he was also played under Casey Keeler as a coach at one point. Another interesting name with some Sam Houston times. Tim Doust, the defensive line coach at Pitt. He was with Sam Houston as the defensive line coach from 2019 to 2020. And while he was there, he helped lead the FCS in run defense, tackles for loss, and third down defense. So a guy that knows the program, coached under Keeler, part of a Keeler coaching tree maybe, and that old grizzled veteran like that.
Yeah, that's not a bad one. Like I said, Craven has a good list of the guys. You mentioned Ryan Carty, who I think on paper fits a lot of what they need. How about one? I don't think they'd be able to afford him, but like somebody like along the lines of the Tim Cramsey at Memphis, right? I believe he was their last OC before Carty left. I think he was the one that coached. Oh my gosh, the quarterback before
Brady White.
No, I'm talking about Sam Houston. The quarterback before Schmid. might have been Jeremiah Briscoe, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, some Sam Houston fan out there is yelling at me. But I think somebody like that, by the way, I should just say right now, stay away from Phil Longo. He's also available right now.
It's not happening.
I was about to say, he is also available right now.
You heard it here first.
That.
Good. Okay, so Sam Houston fans, be glad it's not Phil Longo. But yes, I think somebody like that is definitely along the lines of the candidate. So again, go check out that piece at TexasFootball.com from Craven to get his list on who he kind of names to kind of keep around. All right, let's go to a team that officially as of this morning, or I guess technically as of last night, is hiring 2 new coordinators, and that's Texas Tech.
Big offseason.
Of course, we got news that Tim DeRuyter and Joey McGuire were parting ways, defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter. But also, very quickly emerged that Zach Kittley was going to be the front runner, and he later got the FAU job. He was introduced this morning officially to the players. Very interesting. That's probably another discussion about what I think about that hire on their part.
Interesting hire. Kind of almost a little bit similar to an offensive Texas guy like Tom Herman a little bit. Not a former head coach, but
not interesting. But that now puts Texas Tech in a very interesting scenario where Joey McGuire has to now hire, for the first time, 2 new coordinators since he took the job, 2 new coordinators in a pivotal moment for Tech in heading into an offseason where, okay, you lose your 5-star that you hyped up all season, right? Various, reasons for that. You're losing Taj Brooks. What does the offense look like when you don't have that bell cow? Is Baron Morton, Baron Morton did pretty well, but is he the guy that an offensive coordinator from the outside coming in would look at and say, we have our quarterback? And also, by the way, we thought this year was a lot of pressure. Next year is going to be still a lot of pressure because they're going to be wondering, all right, when are we going to be – is there an AT&T trip in our future sometime soon, Joey McGuire? So, Craven, just your thoughts in general about how massive of a hire, 2 hires, these are going to be for Joey McGuire.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times coaches are defined by their second coordinator hires. If we go through, a lot of national championship winning coaches, conference championship coaches, it's not the first coordinators that come with them that end up winning those big games. And it's always that second one. And so, it's an important time for Joey McGuire at Tech. It feels like they have commitment from the donors to go put a roster together. And so I don't think that they're going to have a hard time finding some choices. I think that they're going to be in on some names that maybe 5-10 years ago wouldn't have been in on Tech just because Cody Campbell and those guys can pay, and they're dedicated to bringing a lot of talent to Lubbock. So big hire for Joey McGuire. I'd imagine it happens sooner rather than later, and we'll just see how this goes. Tomorrow is National Signing Day.
Right.
After that is when a lot of coordinators start moving around, and so I would think by the end of this week we know a lot more about who it's going to be.
So Tim DeRuyter at defensive coordinator was fired, and Zach Kittley took a different job. The defense has not been good, honestly, in any of the 3 years DeRuyter's been there. It showed some improvement last year, but 2 of the first 3 years, they're in the hundreds nationally in passing defense, and they bottomed out to second to last in the FBS this year. Is this a personnel issue where I think Texas Tech has got to go transfer portal platoon change a bunch of defensive backs, similar to what they did to the wide receivers last year? Craven, what do you think about like a new defensive coordinator coming into Texas Tech? What do they have to work with here in Lubbock?
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. We saw what Tech did with wide receivers, as you mentioned last year, where they were some solid players there, and they just kind of shoot them out and brought in some. Josh Kelly, Caleb Douglas, and those were instant impact guys. Offensive line, they sheared up a little bit through the transfer portal, and I think this offseason it's going to be the defense, pass rush. Some of Texas Tech's issues in the secondary was quarterbacks had forever. I mean, they were one of the worst pressure teams in the country. I think Joey's going to go find somebody who can be aggressive, who can go make plays. What's interesting to me about the Tech thing, and this is maybe a separate conversation, but Tech's defense has never been good, and it felt like Tim DeRuyter benefited from that perception. Whereas Tech's offense is always good, or has been always good historically, and Zach Kittley kind of got a lot of extra heat because of that. He wasn't Mike Leach.
I agree.
And so I just think the offensive coordinator position is going to be fascinating to me. Does he stay in that same kind of air raid tree that West Texas is used to? Does he zig after having success with Taj Brooks? that hire is going to tell us a lot about what Joey thinks the future of this program is going to look like.
I think we can transition in a bit, but I think that it was telling that it was obvious that Joey was going to keep Sonny Cumbie initially until he got the La Tech job. Because, yes, are they technically air raid? Yes, but there are variations. He went kind of seemingly all air raid with Zach Kidley, and obviously Kidley later adjusted and implemented Taj Brooks a lot more. But he seemingly went from like air raid modern with Cumbie to air raid pure a little bit more with Kidley. And I think for me at least, I kind of had, obviously La Tech announced that they're keeping Sonny Cumbie. I kind of had that as like the potential like fallback, where it's like if they part ways or if Kidley goes, there's the easy bring him back home again, and there's your guy. And so I don't know. Like I feel like Joey wants to run a more balanced what we've seen the past couple years, because I would argue that we had no indication that Zach Kidley liked to run the ball before this past couple of years, right? And so I feel like that's more of a balance that Joey wanted. But again, we'll see with the names coming out. Now that Sonny Cumbie's staying, we know that he's staying in La Tech.
It'll depend on who they get in the transfer portal too, because I almost think they are more equipped next year to go full on air raid because they lose Taj Brooks. Now, granted, Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams are both stars in the making. And when we talk about Micah Hudson leaving in the transfer portal, like why did he not play?
Yeah.
You had Taj Brooks in the backfield, and the freshman still found a way to play there.
So they're running a lot of 4 or 5 wide.
Yeah, but also losing Jalen Conyers and Mason Tharp, that is huge for the run game as well.
I know he didn't play much, but to your point, Brady Boyd also entered the transfer portal as well. So like, there's more depth to be had at the wide receiver position potentially. So.
I think Graham Harrell's probably a name to watch.
I don't like
from that tree.
Interesting.
Dude, it has not looked good the last few.
I would make a phone call down to San Marcos and see what they're.
Shut up.
Anyway, you don't like that.
Listen, I put in the Slack that if Mac Leftwich is still Texas State's offensive coordinator, we have something on him. By this time next year, we have something on him. So,
and then I think defensively, Scotty Hazelton's a name to watch. The Texas
Scotty
associate head coach. He's one to think about.
Man, Scotty Hazelton. I remember he was our DC for a while, Michigan State's DC for a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was last year.
Him against that last game and against Rutgers, probably.
Probably. We probably could have.
All right, my headset came undone, so now we're back. Anyway, so moving on to a guy who will not be on the defensive coordinator list because a certain team swiped him up. Let's talk about UNT's newest defensive coordinator, Skyler Cassity from Sam Houston.
Love it.
A massive hire. UNT needed to make a dynamite hire.
Splash hire.
Because they obviously had money because they gave it all to Matt Capone to run that defense. So they obviously had money. He was the highest paid coordinator at one point in the AAC. So they had some money to throw around. And I think, Craven, you basically put like, hey, Cassidy's probably going to UNT or following Keeler up there to Temple. And if it comes down to a money battle, UNT better win that.
And looks like they did.
And looks like they did as of earlier today. So, Craven, a little bit on Skyler Cassity for any UNT fans or any fan that's unfamiliar with kind of his rapid rise.
Yeah, you won't see any of the odd man front stuff anymore. It's going to be more of a 4-2-5. An excellent secondary coach. Everywhere he's been, the secondary has been lights out. He's a fundamentals, keep it simple, go attack the ball type of guy. And I think North Texas could probably use that. I think sometimes, especially with what you can recruit to G5, some of these coaches kind of get a little cute, try to disguise things and make the, like you're coaching at Alabama or something like that, when really you just strip it down, get your guys in the right place, make it less confusing for them, and just go tackle the football. And I think Cassity, being young, has a good communication skill. And North Texas suddenly has one of the best young offensive minds in the country and one of the best young defensive minds in the country on the same staff. Like, if they get their recruiting figured out and those guys that they've started signing really develop, the Mean Green are inching towards, finally putting together a staff that, I think can go win this conference.
And Craven's finally going to root for the Mean Green. Ain't that right?
Well, I don't know about that.
Look, here's my only concern with this hire, and it has nothing to do with Skyler Cassity. It has to do with can you coach a stout defense with this offense?
Because Sam Houston's offense, not UNT's offense.
I was about to say, look, if you need a defense that can stop a team, if your defense has an offense on the other side that's they're going to take their time and they're going to run quarterback power and they're going to go for 4 yards and then have like a, Army light offense because they really can't throw the ball. Great, good job. You're going to catch your breath. You're going to get ready to go. The other team maybe is going to start pressing a little bit because the time's going to be crunched on them a little bit. As we've seen with Texas State, who I think has had decent coordinators, they're going to let up some big plays because naturally that offense, either it's a quick 3 and out or it's a 7-yard drive touchdown back on the field. I'm not saying he can't do it. What I am saying is I'm curious if this is just Texas State's basically abandoned all semblance of like having a good defense in terms of like numbers. They're just taking the ball away, right? It's like, screw it. We're not going to stop you for a 3 and out. Usually you're going to just make sure you don't score. UNT, I think, tried to go with the whole, I hate coaching against this defense, so maybe if we can get something going. I don't know. What I'm saying is if Skyler Cassity can coach a top 50 defense, send him to the moon because he should be doing things greater than football.
Well, and it also is interesting to note, and Craven, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but Skyler Cassity likes to send a lot of blitzers too, and puts a big emphasis on attacking the quarterback. So rotating pass rushers, they got to play fewer snaps, and if you're out there all the time, that could be difficult for this defense. Is that kind of correct, Craven? Hopefully.
Yeah, I think so. They're going to get after the quarterback. They're going to try to create turnovers. They're stealing possessions. And, Skyler's coached with Eric Morris before.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so, he understands what this offense is going to look like. They're probably not going to give up 20 points a game like he did at Sam for the reasons that you said. But they gave up 34.5 at North Texas last year. If they can get that to 27, that's a team that can compete for a conference championship. They've been within a touchdown of all these top teams, Tulane, Army, UTSA, over the last couple of years of Morris's tenure. They've been right there with those teams. They just can't stop them.
Right.
If they can just come up with 2 or 3 extra stops, all of a sudden North Texas is an 8-9 win football team. And we've seen in the American, you can climb up it quickly.
And you mentioned, can Skyler Cassity do it, getting the recruiting figured out in North Texas? Well, he's got Caleb Weaver, a former walk-on, playing Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year. So, and he's a damn good football player, but that just shows you the development Skyler Cassity can have.
I'll say this. I believe UNT was one of the top teams in the country in terms of underclassmen played this year. So it does show both offense and defense. So, I think it does show that there is something there, right? The fact they were able to get to bowl eligibility and take a little bit of a step forward from last year, or even just match last year when they had a lot more upperclassmen and developed talent, I think it shows that there is something to work with and build off of on both sides of the ball.
Does he get to coach during bowl prep?
I would imagine he more consults and works on scheme and recruiting, transfer portal. I doubt he's out there really calling it.
Either way, it's good that they have 15 extra practices for bowl season.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
I imagine it looks like the system he wants it to look like in the bowl game.
Right. So there's some coaching news. Of course, there's going to be more, obviously, as Tech makes their hires. Sam Houston makes their hire, and then every other hire outside of that will be locked in. TechStable.com. Make sure to follow Craven and Carter and Corey as well, because it is big. There was some movement in the non-FBS ranks with Sol Ross as well. So we'll be all on top of that. But as Carter mentioned off the top, this weekend is pretty massive. And it got massive. Massiver. That's a word. Last week, after obviously the Lone Star results and SMU taking care of business and everybody kind of getting their stuff done in the ACC. We got our games, Mallory. We got our games of the week. Only 2 of them, but we got them.
Should we start with the big dogs?
Let's start with the big dogs.
All right. SEC Championship Preview. Texas taking on Georgia for the second time this year. December 7th at 3 p.m. You can watch it on ABC. Texas, 2.5-point favorites. The over-under's 50.5. It's being played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia.
I hate Texas being the favorite in this one, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, you always do this.
No.
I know.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah, you always.
Georgia and Kirby Smart, when they made the national championship, and everyone thought they were going to make the national championship, you had Nolan Smith running up to the camera saying, y'all thought we were going to go 7-5. Georgia already stomped Texas. Now you're making Texas the favorite. You don't think that's any ammunition for Kirby Smart? I don't like that at all.
It's hard to beat a good team twice, though.
That's true.
We'll say that.
That's why I'm going to go Texas. Spoiler alert.
I'll say this, and I'll let Craven chime in as well. I think that, one, this Georgia team they've looked good one game in the past 2 months, and it was the Texas game. They have not looked that great outside of that. The Tennessee game, sure, they kind of stomped Tennessee, but like as we just saw this past week, they had to go to 75 overtimes against Georgia Tech, and shout out Haynes King, respect.
Yeah, that was huge.
That was awesome.
Respect, big dog. That was a great game. But like, this is a Georgia team that's been so gettable. Carson Beck has been so mid. Like, it's been the most encouraging thing I've seen heading into this game was that Quinn Ewers was able to do what he did on 1 foot, basically, against a really good A&M defense, right? That's the biggest encouragement because, yeah, this pass rush is going to be a thing. I like Trevor Gooseby, but can he do it against, Walker and those boys at Georgia?
I was thinking about Trevor Gooseby, and this might be a really dumb take, but I feel like jumping in cold off the bench, you don't have time to get nervous, and it's just full on adrenaline. You got a week to think about Georgia, so I think Kelvin Banks' loss will almost be felt more in this Georgia game. That might be really dumb, but that's what I was thinking about earlier.
Craven, what are your thoughts?
I think Texas has seen Georgia's best shot, and Georgia hasn't seen Texas's. And to me, that leans towards a Longhorn advantage. The playing the 2 games can't beat a good team twice, like Mallory said. I tend to agree with that. And then if you go and autopsy the first game, here are Georgia's scoring drives. This is how long they were. 13 yards, 13 yards, 34 yards, 25 yards, 4 yards, and then the 89-yard drive at the end. Right. Texas did everything in their power to give Georgia that football game. The Bulldogs had already lost a game that year, back up against the wall. It was crazy in DKR. I think Kirby threw as much at Sark as he possibly could. I think Texas has an advantage going into this rematch because I don't know what else Georgia can do. I don't think there's any more curveball. You're going to see the team you saw in Austin, which is a very good football team. But I think the Longhorns feel like they have so much more that they can show Georgia and do to Georgia. That I think Texas is probably the rightful favorite here. Carter picked A&M last week, so I don't want to hear it.
I think Texas saw Georgia's defense's best shot.
I picked them too.
They didn't see Georgia's offense's best shot. Carson Beck had 3 interceptions in that game.
I was going to say.
I think that's just who Carson Beck is.
That's what I was getting at. So I think that the other wrinkle is if they get good Carson Beck, but he hasn't been good Carson Beck.
What is good Carson Beck?
Like against Georgia Tech, he played fine after the end of the fourth quarter and overtime, right? Like that, he was kind of very much mid most of the game, but he kind of rallied late when they needed him to. But I'm look at every game after Texas, right? Florida, they win that game, but he threw 3 picks. Mississippi, Ole Miss, the one they lost, they had 10 points, right? 1 pick, no touchdowns. 2 touchdowns against Tennessee, 4 against UMass, and then I mentioned the 5 touchdowns against Georgia Tech. I think this is who Carson Beck is. I think he is a okay quarterback if everything is going right around him, right? I think we've seen with Quinn Ewers that, yes, I think that is there maybe some questions about his ceiling? Maybe. But I think that he's somebody who, more than Carson Beck, can maybe elevate to the occasion more than I've seen Carson Beck do that.
On that Quinn Ewers note,
sure.
This game coming up feels very similar to the last time Texas played Georgia in that Texas is coming off a big rivalry victory over Oklahoma and now Texas A&M, and everyone's hyped up on that. But if the offense plays like it did against, you saw it versus how they played against Oklahoma, where Quinn Ewers threw an interception and missed a touchdown pass. And I said before the Georgia game, you play like that again, spot them 21 points, you're going to lose that game. Similarly, in the Texas A&M game, 2 red zone turnovers, a block punt, you're losing to Georgia in this game 10 out of 10.
Fair.
So
that's fair.
I know everyone's hyped up about the Lone Star Showdown, but there is stuff to fix for this game.
Texas is going to have to run the ball.
Yes.
Trey Wisner kind of coming alive the last few games, I think gives me excitement for the Longhorns. Against Georgia in the first game, they ran the ball 27 times for 29 yards.
Right.
And that, you cannot put this all on Quinn Ewers. Like, you're going to have to be balanced. And as Carter said, the Longhorns have to avoid shooting themselves in the foot because Georgia's too good. Like, you're just not going to make mistakes like that and beat Georgia in what is basically a home game for the Bulldogs.
Yes, 100%. And I think that, again, we saw a lot from Trevor Gooseby that's to be very excited about. I do think Kirby Smart still sees a freshman there, and he's like, let's see what we can – because obviously Jalen Walker is not going to need much help, but – I would not be surprised if we see some interesting things done on that side of the ball to maybe give the freshmen a little bit more to think about.
What happens if Kirby Smart pants Steve Sarkisian again?
I think that just proves that Kirby Smart is just the best defensive coach in football.
That just says more about Kirby Smart.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think Sark's done enough to where you look at him and you say, if there's one guy that can get him, or maybe 2 with Brent Venables if he doesn't have an anemic offense, but if there's
Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, there's but let's say one or two, right? He's one of two. Sure, then I think you're okay with that. I think that's maybe a problem you have once or twice a year. And if you have those problems, you're in a pretty good situation, i.e. the SEC Championship game.
Yeah.
So
not everyone can beat Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like sometimes you knock him out and he hulks up and you're like, oh geez, here we go again. So yeah.
I think Texas has the elite unit in this matchup.
I think so too. Yes, 100%.
Which one?
And the Texas defense.
Okay.
Yes, the unit side of the ball. Yes, I think Georgia's defense is fine, but not Georgia caliber that we've seen. I think Jalen Walker's awesome, but I think that secondary wise, I think there's a reason why I'm not giving Carson Beck much of a chance to be good Carson Beck in this game, if that makes sense. So yeah. Anything else on this game? It's gonna be crazy. I'm very nervous to see because there's gonna be a lot of narratives drawn from this game, regardless of the result.
Implications Bowl.
It's going to be Georgia's done. It's going to be Texas isn't actually ready for the SEC. It's going to be so many different things. But
can you still say Texas isn't ready for the SEC even if they lose this game?
Watch them.
They're going to find a way.
Watch them. Oh, Georgia was the only good teams they played. See, look at that. Oh, they weren't ready. Everybody else is down.
A&M's like, see, Georgia was the only good team they played. Wait, what? I will say one more wrinkle in this Arch Manning packages. Kirby Smart's calling a timeout every time Arch Manning comes on the field. After watching that overtime game.
I'm very fascinated to see the wrinkles in that game because that was something that he definitely drew up for A&M to be like, here's some mobile quarterback packages that just throws a wrench in it. And Kirby Smart is dissecting that like the Zapruder film. He's like, okay, what happens when he waves his left hand? Like, is that something going on? I don't know if we see the Arch Manning package in this game, if that makes sense. I think that was something he had for A&M, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm very curious, Craven. I don't know if you have a thought. Maybe he just does. Maybe I'm just overanalyzing. I think that was something he threw in for A&M. I think that's something it's a wrinkle that he just like, nope, you don't get that anymore. You don't get that to study. That's something you have to think about, but I don't think you get that on the field this week.
It might be unless Quinn Ewers' ankle is still really bothering.
Yes. He
looked faster with the robo foot.
I was about to say, that was the slowest 30-yard game on the run.
They're calling him Splint Ewers.
That was the slowest.
Well, he saw Arch playing and was like, I gotta get back out there, guys.
give me that painkiller. I need to go out there. I can run too.
I don't need any backup. I've seen the Dr. Pepper commercial.
That was Unc showing you he still had it. He's like, no. Give me the ball.
It looked like me at the Turkey Trot Thanksgiving bowl game. Running out of bounds on accident.
Alrighty. Mallory, we got one more championship game. We can't forget about them SMU Mustangs.
The only other team playing, only FBS team in the state playing this week. SMU taking on Clemson in the ACC Championship this Saturday at 7 p.m. You can watch it on ABC. SMU, 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 53.5, and it's being played at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Craven, you're going to be at this game, aren't you?
Going to be at this game. I'm being cold. I don't know if y'all seen the forecast in Charlotte. Apparently, that's cold weather. I thought North Carolina was hot. I thought that was the South. I'm wrong. Go back to yourself in August, especially you, Mallory, and
wow.
Try to imagine SMU not only making the ACC championship game, but being favored against Clemson.
Can't.
Just amazing. Just an amazing job. Scott Simons today named a finalist for the Broyles Award.
Much deserved.
I think, much deserved. I think we're going to, not just you and not just us, but I think as a whole, a college football community, we're going to talk about the offenses a lot in this thing. Clemson scores 35.7 points a game. SMU is almost at 40 points a game. But this is going to be the defense. Like, which defensive unit can steal a couple of possessions? This is going to be a high-scoring game. I think the winner is going to be in the 30s or the 40s. But which defense can either score on their own or just come up with some stops? I think I trust SMU's defense a little bit more, which is not something I thought I'd say on.
Well, because SMU likes to score touchdowns themselves. Get Club Takeaway fired up.
I think for me, the thing in this game that I'm very fascinated by is there was a point in the season where everybody was like, oh, Miami and Clemson are just going to meet, right? And there was a sticking feeling in the back of my mind where I was like, has Clemson played anybody? The better question is, have they beaten anybody? Because this team got bullied by South Carolina last week. A South Carolina team that looks pretty good.
And Georgia, we just talked about them. Oh, it didn't look good in week 1 of the season. I know it's a long time ago.
Didn't look great. Only lost Louisville You want to talk about their wins on the season? Is Pitt their best win on the season?
Maybe.
I think Pitt might be their best win on the season. And, I'm not saying that they're not going to be competitive in this game. I think that defense is going to be probably one of the better ones that SMU has seen this year, right? But I'm very curious if this is a game where we were continuously, I'd say we, the royal we, not just necessarily us on the show. I think the royal we was looking at Clemson as like a shoo-in, as like, oh yeah, they're just going to, Cade Klubnik was getting Heisman hype, and it was like, were we just watching them beat up on a bad schedule?
I'm going to say something that the Pony Express might run me over for. Ask if Clemson has beat anybody. Has SMU played anybody? Their best game is Louisville.
I think that's more of a data point than I would give for TCU would be Clemson's best win.
Okay, maybe that's fair.
I think TCU would be SMU's Clemson's best win by a good margin.
Overall point is I don't buy this narrative coming into the game that SMU doesn't have to win this game and still makes the college football playoff. I think Clemson, they were in SMU spot, yes, they don't have to win this game, but brands do matter in the college football playoff selection. Sure. It's unfair, but life is unfair.
Sure.
SMU, I believe, has to win this game to get in the college football playoff. I don't want to be at the mercy of the committee losing this game in the ACC Championship.
That's a fair call.
Kramer, you don't want to put up a helmet next to Alabama.
Right. Yes.
Right. Exactly. I mean, ask Baylor and TCU in 2014 with Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, this is a money making deal. The fairness comes second.
Right.
I do think just the game wise, what I find interesting about this matchup is SMU does create a lot of turnovers. Clemson's only turned the ball over 9 times all year.
Sure.
They have a plus 14 turnover margin, and it's not because they create a ton of turnovers. They're right there at about 23. They just don't turn the ball over at all. 6 interceptions total, only 3 fumbles lost. Again, I think both offenses are going to score and move the ball up and down the field. I think it's going to be a fun, exciting game. But if a defense, like Carter said, can score on their own or set up their offense late, I think that could be the difference in this one. I'm really excited to see this game. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I really do think it's going to be a very fantastic game, because the other thing that I think that's another wrinkle is SMU. Of course, Kevin Jennings has been a big story in the offense, but it's been the run game of Brashard Smith. I think this defensive front is going to be the best they've seen other than you can make an argument for Duke as well, but Clemson's rush defense in particular has been really, really good.
Well, I just looked; they're 14th in the conference in rushing defense.
Really?
Yeah, they're down.
PFF has them completely on the mark as high 80s grades.
Yeah, well, I haven't watched a lot of them, so I'm just going off stats.
We'll see. I mean, the NFL prospects and all that are along the defensive line, and so maybe we'll see. I'm just very curious about all year that's been their defense. It's been, obviously, and then Cade Klubnik turning it around a little bit, but it's been that defense in particular that's been pretty good for them, and I'm very fascinated to see how SMU handles. Last time they played a stout defense, we saw how many turnovers they had, right, against Duke. So, what does that unit have for SMU defense that's overmatched quite a bit most of the teams they played this season, I would say, just by sheer talent or just sheer scheme as well, with Kevin Jennings and Brashard Smith just being better than anybody else they have on the other side of the field.
The run game note's very interesting to me because we talk about who could have predicted at the beginning of the year that SMU would be favored against Clemson in the ACC Championship. Who could have predicted that maybe their advantage is in the run game and pounding the rock at Clemson's defense with Brashard Smith? He's been unbelievable this year. And I think they especially need to lead on the run game because Clemson has 3 guys with over double-digit tackles for loss, which means they're getting after the quarterback. And so I think the run game combined with Kevin Jennings and Brashard Smith is going to be huge for them in this game.
Yeah, Clemson allows 4.58 yards a run. Some of that's big play stuff. They've been kind of susceptible to that. I don't think they're a great tackling team in the secondary. So if you can get through it, I think you're going to be okay there. But I think if you're Clemson, you're worried about SMU's speed and tempo. Yeah. And if you're SMU, you're worried about Clemson's just size and depth. And the team that can meet the other in that challenge, I think, comes away with this one. And I'm with Carter. I think SMU should be in the college football playoff if they don't get blown out against Clemson.
Yeah.
Oh, believe me, I agree.
I just don't trust this committee to leave Alabama or Ole Miss out in favor of SMU. I just don't.
No, yes, 100%. I agree. It's a helmet game at that point, and you're looking at Bama. You're looking at who's the other ones? Ole Miss, South Carolina. Who even South Carolina looked great. It has looked really good.
Yeah, beat Clemson.
Yeah, they beat Clemson in a game that was a slobber knocker of a game. And like if you're looking at the committee again, obviously I think the team is Bama, but Ole Miss, if you look at just 13 through 15, those three teams, SEC over ACC every time to these people.
I think we have enough data points to say you can't put your faith in the College Football Playoff Committee if you're SMU.
Yeah, no, 100%.
You got to go take care of business on the field.
Yep, absolutely. So those are those games, and that's all we had for this week. But which means all our eyes are going to be on those.
The crazy thing about it is SMU could either be the 3 seed or out.
That is crazy to think about. That is very
you know,
crazy.
and they're going to get punished for playing an extra game where like Indiana, you know, at 11-1, they're in.
Yeah.
You know, and I do think that they're going to protect the Big Ten loser and the SEC loser. I worry that they don't care about any of the other ones. And that includes SMU, unfortunately.
Yeah, they don't. That includes, I mean, because the Big 12 loser is definitely out. ACC, Jesus, because you have. I'm trying to think of all the Big Ten teams: Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State.
Because they've really been leaning on, like, if you watch these shows, which I have to, and it's like my least favorite part of the job, honestly. But if you watch these shows, they talk a lot about your best win. They don't really care necessarily who you lose to.
Right.
It's who have you beaten. And as we talked about earlier, SMU just doesn't. I mean, TCU probably is their best win.
Yeah.
You know, maybe Duke. And then if they're up against an Alabama team that's beat Georgia, and say Georgia just won the SEC championship, those suits are I don't know. It's a bad position to be if you're SMU. It's going to be unfortunate.
No, I agree. And it comes from, I think, them underrating SMU all this whole season. Right? Like it comes like they're having
it's a positive feedback loop.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like when they were unranked and it took for them forever to get in the ranking in the first place, like the highest they're going to get, of course, is just 9 because they've had to work their way up from being unranked through a bad ACC schedule. So yeah,
and Clemson has to get in the second SMU's in too. That was very funny.
Yeah, that was very hilarious. Yes, that it was like, oh yeah, by the way, we got 2 in there. So
tonight's rankings are gonna if they're in the top 7 or so, a close loss may not drop them.
Yeah.
But if they're still 8, 9 in that range or whatever, that's the committee telling you what they're going to do.
It's going to come down to how far Ohio State's ranking is going to be very funny.
That's
in a very Joker way. Like I'm going to
and Miami.
I'm going to good point. And Miami. I'm going to lose my mind because I don't. Miami should fall behind. Obviously, I think we'll fall behind SMU to some extent. Ohio State should, in my opinion.
The committee's like, you know, Ohio State showed a lot of fight in the Michigan game. Good loss. Most of the fight was after the game ended, but you know, a lot of great fight.
We love that for them.
Good one.
They're 5 anyway. So yeah, there's our stuff for the weekend. I should mention Mallory tomorrow.
What's happening tomorrow?
You and Greg Powers are going to be hosting our signing day special.
Woo!
If you are anybody watching this show who's into signing day wondering, hey, have we signed anybody good? Have we signed anybody at all? As a Texas State fan a couple years ago, that was a question for me. Have we signed anybody at all? You can watch Mallory, Greg Powers, Carter, Tepper tomorrow, noon, on all these platforms. They're going to be walking through, and to some extent, every FBS program, right? Some will get obviously more emphasis, some focus on, this is, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this will be a pretty prospect-focused one.
Yes, and we'll be talking about a couple of out-of-state players as well.
Yes.
Not just players that are
so there will be
playing high school football
So there
in
will
Texas.
be some overarching analysis of teams, but for the most part, if you want to know who are the players signing and a little bit about them, some film breakdown, some how they adapt to their college environment, we'll tune in tomorrow at noon. Of course, stay tuned to all of our website content. Greg Powers will have you locked and loaded on TexasFootball.com. Tons of signing day content. He will have an individual piece. I can tell you this right now. He will have an individual piece on every power program signing class, as well as one piece on every group of 5 signing class. One summary piece on the group of 5's signing classes. So TexasFootball.com tomorrow, all day, all the social platforms, signing day special. Mallory's done a good job of organizing it with Greg Powers. We're pretty excited for what that's going to look like. So all you recruitniks out there, we got you covered, man. It's a busy week. It's a busy weekend, but it's a busy week for us because we still got the playoffs too. But we're jamming in this National Signing Day special just for you guys. So
Powers also said he's updating his Hot 100 right now, his Hot 100 rankings for the class of 2025.
Yes.
So I haven't looked at it yet. He sent it to me, but I haven't looked at
Nice.
it. But he's got stuff in the works.
And I don't know if he's made it public yet, but I do know we crowned our last 5 stars.
We have. I don't know if he's made it public
I was
yet.
about to say, I do know we've crowned it. I don't think he's made it public, so stay tuned there. We named 5 stars in every class, and we just crowned our last one. The one before that was Jonah Williams, who we just revealed as the Texas Rising cover boy. So
Correct.
if you are a subscriber, be on the lookout for that one, texasfootball.com/subscribe. Okay. With that being said, busy weekend. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
As I'll ever be.
Alrighty, so with that being said,
Strap in.
appreciate you guys.
Strap in.
Appreciate you guys watching. I just realized this is like our last like preview official like in this structure because like all the bowl games happen at different times and like state starts up. So
We'll
like,
do a huge
Yeah,
bowl
we'll do a
preview,
bowl
right?
preview.
well, I know, but
We
like
always
this is like
do.
our like this week. Prepare you for the week. It's like we got to prepare you for like games happening like 2 weeks from now and like a month from now. and all this
bittersweet,
stuff.
man.
So it's a bittersweet one. So anyway, appreciate you guys listening and watching. Of course, Carter and Craven will be back with probably a smaller but still as big recap episode this weekend after the SEC and ACC Championships. We appreciate all you guys for listening. Remember, subscribe to Republic of Football Podcast or Republic of Football Network, wherever you get your podcasts. TexasFootball.com/subscribe. Remember, tomorrow, signing day special on these very platforms at noon. Remember to buy Craven's book, Dave Campbell's Guide to Texas College Football, at TexasFootball.com as well. And
I heard it makes a great Christmas gift.
I heard it makes a great Christmas gift. We had a Black Friday.
That's right.
We had a Black Friday deal going on, so
Yeah,
if you
we
missed
did.
out on that, sorry about that. We may have another one soon for Christmas, but be sure to get that for the college football fan in your life. Mike Elko, there's a lot of things to talk about, son. We gotta talk.
Son.
He's not giving you a call now.
No, he's definitely not giving me a call now. Arsenal's winning again. We need to talk a little bit about Arsenal. Some good vibes over there. So give us a call, please. And I'm not going to say go Rutgers. So I'll just
Ish, can you tell me who is winning the Premier League right now?
The website won't load for me.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm taking my headphones off. Soccer talk.
It's Liverpool, of course. Arsenal's right there. I believe 9 points behind now.
Craven, that's your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just pummeled Man City and took like a 9-point lead on the rest of the table. So,
Carter already got up.
Anyway, yeah, Carter's already standing up, putting up his jacket. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Carter and Craven will talk to you guys on Sunday morning. We'll see you.